Thank you, Malu, Doc Malu. Uh, you are introduced as if you're no longer that person. You're good researchers, and yeah, I'd like to make a confession to the audience. The title seems to be like that, but I think this is the most difficult paper I've written throughout my life. So I do not know if I can make justice to your presence here, but let me recognize the presence of some industry practitioner. One of my discussants here has come from Negros, the sugar bowl, coming from the young generation. I think I've been doing this research already. Yes, not been 40 years. But why he's here is because I know he's one of the largest practitioner of what we are advocating for, what I've been advocating for the last 3.5 decades of my life. So he's managing a farm, but half of it are already into trust farming. I won't mention the number of hectares. And of course, there are people from the Sugar Regulatory Administration. I hope one of the board member happened to be my kumpare and my kumpare this year. So I was mentioning to him, hopefully before we, they say old soldiers never die. So old farmers, old professors will never die. They simply fade away. So I hope before we fade away, we can implement it. I have a statement inside the text of the paper that better late than never, because the Philippines is always late. So with that, let me already start the presentation. Yes, this one, the presentation is of this segment, the clear discussion and ultimating the summary conclusion. When we talk of energy, it's always associated with oil. This data is no surprise. 90% of the world economy is fueled by oil every year. But oil provides 95% of the energy for all transport, to generate electricity, to power industry, heat, and cook foods. All petrochemical products, which and all transport of people and goods, rely heavily on petrol. The United States spends daily about $2 billion US. It's almost 100 billion pesos a day. Wherein each American uses 27 barrels annually. Of course, 1.4 barrels a year. As a whole, 90% of the average barrel of oil is made into different products that are burned. The remaining 8% must be over, 5% is made into asphalt for roads, and the remaining 3% is used in the manufacture of various products. So, I want to mention all of them there in my video. By the way, I just intend to email to you my paper. Without the annexes, it's more than 100 pages, and the annexes are also about 100 pages. So kindly bear it with me. Just write your email legibly, so we'll not commit a mistake. So we can email the paper right away after the seminar. Okay? So paki-sulat lang mo maigi. So, medyo mahal din po ang pag-reproduce ng paper. Anyway, so yun lang. The belief is that this Spratly Island is the last region in the world of top petroleum estimated at 100 billion barrels of oil, with production levels of 1.4 to 1.9 billion barrels per day, according to geologist Dr. Kelvin Mendoza, based on Filipino. So it is no surprise that there's a conflict there, okay? Because everybody is addicted to oil. Well, kailan mo na-discover yung oil? 1859. You know, because of that oil, it stopped the massive killings of whale, the major source of oil at that time, and massive use of wood and charcoal in deforestation, fuel, train, warehouses. So the industries flourished and made human lives easier at that time. So at that time, oil was the game changer, so to speak. But what happened? So that we have this global warming. We know very well that 70 to 82% of the greenhouse gases is due to global warming, and the rest with what land use, methane emission, and greenhouse oxide. But you see, our food system share is about 56%. And it's no surprise because from land preparation, the chemicals that we use, and so forth, make use of oil. But in sugarcane, also sugarcane is machinery intensive, but what contributes a lot of greenhouse gases is burning. Who contribute the most? Well, of course, the United States. So that's why right now climate change is real. If science is still uncertain, then Dr. Robin has this illustration. Kindly make your own interpretation. I'll give you some minutes. So I did not interpret that for you. So I do not know kung saan kung anong laki na itong whatever. Forgive me, but as I've said, the PowerPoint display came from a lady, not from a man. So you cannot accuse us of gender or whatever. Okay? Just to drive home the point, since this afternoon, this lonely afternoon, I might as well crack a joke. So this is my joker for this afternoon. Oil is a game changer. Crop production agriculture is virtually agricultural addiction. If there is a drug addiction that impairs human health and even lead to death, the long shadows of agricultural chemical addiction is the least appreciated. More than 95% of the world farmers believe that they cannot grow crops without agrochemicals, especially fertilizer. All over the world, less than 1% of agricultural land are into organic farming. Crop residues are burned to accelerate plant preparation. But you know, with the burning, this decreases soil organic matter. Before what we are seeing, agriculture, crop production is like mining the soil. Now we can replace that. Agriculture, crop production is destroying the soil or impoverishing the soil. So that if farmers now are claiming that they are poor, for me it's no surprise. It is more of a surprise if they are claiming they are rich because their soil are already so poor. When it comes to the use of oil, I'm focusing your attention. There's one fertilizer which means crop yield, high crop yield, is nitrogen. But 1 kilogram nitrogen use 2.15 liter oil and emits 12.91 kilograms CO2 equivalent. By the way, it took me quite some time to derive this figure because if you see in the literature, the variations in number is so big. So I might as well recompute based from more recent data. And the formula is also somewhat tedious. So human activities emit greenhouse gases causing global warming is now accepted. That the food systems contribute something like 56%. Well, the Philippines only contribute 27% in 2000, but now it's about 0.3%. Okay? So small relative to the total. But you see, even with that, the Philippine president committed us, I'm referring to the outgoing president in a few days, during the COVID-21 UN Conference on Climate Change, 70% reduction. Okay? Later on, why only 70%. Why 70%? 195 nations signed or agreed with the COP21. This is the new agreement. The dream, what they have committed, is that we have to limit global warming below 2 degrees centigrade. Above 2 degrees centigrade, we do not know anymore what will happen. The international community's remaining budget for mission is less than 1,000 gigatons or 1 teragigaton. The challenge is so enormous. Why? If we burn all the remaining petroleum, equivalent global emission will be around 15,000 gigatons, 15 teragigaton. So we need to say we are in excess of 14 teragigaton. So ang budget na lang ho natin ay 1 teragigaton. And as I've said, ang problema natin, we have this addiction. Sugarcane production is no exception. It's an intensive energy requiring process. I've been doing this analysis since 2002. From cane growing in the field, and plant preparation, so on and so forth. Growing, falling canes in the field, manufacture and transport of biochemicals, fertilizer, that we use directly and indirectly used. So, paano natin tinitingnan? How do we look at sugarcane production setting? Sugarcane production, therefore, should be only using low energy so that it can emit only a small amount of carbon, collectively carbon footprint. And of course, to decrease the cost of production, to sustain its economic viability and long-term ecological stability. So this is what we call the 3 E's of production. Quantifying the carbon footprint of the product can be used as the basis for reducing its greenhouse gas emission. On this basis, President Aquino, 2 years ago, 24th of November 2014, he issued Executive Order 174, institutionalizing the Philippine Greenhouse Gas Inventory Management and Reporting System. I do not know if you already know this, but they say, or they claim, ignorance of the law excuses no one. Now that you know it, so you have no excuse that you do not know it. But even if you do not know it, we have not excuse, because it is a law already. Unless another executive order will repeal it. But I don't think no president will repeal this executive order. And I think no president of the Philippines will also reduce the commitment of 70% of President Pinoy. Perhaps if there are landmark activities or whatever important decisions that President Aquino made, it was issuing this executive order and committing our country to 70% reduction of carbon footprint. So, tayo po sa academic, malaki ang responsibility natin because education, dun sa magsisimula. So, the objectives of this study, of this paper, finally, how we could recommend, how can we adopt production practices, how do we pursue research and development, and what are the policy options that we can formulate and implement to reduce the high energy and carbon footprint for this crop, for sugarcane. And hopefully we can do it for corn, for rice, or many other crops, or for all crops. Because as I claim, as the grain agronomists, grain international agronomists claim, majority of the greenhouse gas emission come from our food, which is about 56%. By the way, I prepared here a merienda for you. A low carbon footprint merienda. I'll explain later why I came. So the approach, well, let's use one review or read the study the gaps, analyze the results, so on. Briefly, this is the study boundary or on its. I tried to reclassify the energy-consuming components or carbon-emitting operations or goods into five. One is on the crop establishment, two, care and management of the crop, the farm inputs, the fertilizer, the herbicides, harvesting and hauling grains to the sugar mill, and then what we call, or what I call, embedded energy. Calculating the energy bill and carbon footprint of sugarcane production. A while ago I made a confession, so difficult. How to formulate appropriate formulas for calculating the energy bill and carbon footprint of sugarcane production. I will not be showing all those formula, but only the summary. So the energy bill of sugarcane production was calculated using the equation below. I am fond of arithmetic. There is no dy dx derivatives or integration or differentiation equations here. They're simply arithmetic, okay? Addition. So if you are good in arithmetic, you can tackle this subject matter. But of course, the challenge here is how to use that's really accurate, near precise, near accurate technical equation. Again, for the farm inputs, I mentioned a while ago about nitrogen fertilizer. It's so difficult to calculate the nitrogen emission of nitrogen fertilizer because it has a direct emission and indirect emission, so to make the total emission. And the indirect emission is also attributed to volatilized as well as the leach end. Those major soil science can understand this. Okay. So finally, in this equation, I was able to come up with this value which I used a while ago. The carbon emission from nitrogen, 1 kilogram nitrogen fertilizer, it's about 13 kilogram CO2 equivalent per kilogram nitrogen. But of course, our colleague here, farmers, will say, hey, we will not apply nitrogen, then we will not get high yield. One of our discussants here is our alumnus from the university, one of the outstanding sugarcane planter in the Philippines. I use his farm as one of the benchmark. He's using 300 kilograms nitrogen per hectare. So you can multiply 300 times 13. That's the emission he's contributing in the atmosphere. So the net carbon dioxide emission equivalent. Another practice is, of course, burning. Yeah, I would like to explain a bit about burning. Later on, I'll show you the diagram. Here, I did not include the direct carbon emission from carbon dioxide. Reason, the argument is that in the next cycle of photosynthesis, anyway, CO2 will be reabsorbed, carbon fixation, in the process of photosynthesis. So what remains are the emission of methane, carbon monoxide, and nitrous oxide. I included an equation on calculating avoided emission of carbon dioxide. What is an avoided emission? If you burn or not burn, okay, then there's no emission of carbon dioxide. Instead, that organic matter will decompose and becomes stable humus. Okay. And then we have the so-called avoided emission of methane, carbon monoxide, and nitrous oxide. And avoided emission due to nitrogen fixation. Why? Because for every kilogram of truss, the associated or the coupled nitrogen fixation is about 10 kilograms. That's the average. It can be as high as 15 kilograms per ton. So it is for 5 to 15 kilograms. So I use the midpoint, which is 10 kilograms. Okay. application. Because of that, ultimately, then we can reduce nitrogen fertilizer application. In Brazil, they are only applying as high as 90 kilograms per hectare to as low as 50 kilograms per hectare now because of non-trash burning or trash farming. Okay. And then, of course, when we burn, we directly emit a lot of nutrients. So if you don't burn, then you retain them. Nitrogen is about 90% burned, phosphorus 20 to 25, potassium 70 to 75%. With trash farming, then we extend more ratoons. Instead of 1 or 2 ratoons, maybe about 5 or 6 times. So there's also avoided emission due to the burned fuel during land preparation. So, yun po, I emphasize this. And then, to put value on carbon, there's now what they call social costs of carbon. Okay. So I included here the formula. So what are the results we so machines that are used in land preparation emits or use 250 LDOE. LDOE means liter diesel oil equivalent. Where is Mr. Corpus, VP Corpus? He is the one who proposed this word, liter diesel oil equivalent, in their paper that they presented way back in 1994 deals with the convention. The convention is used the word gigajoule or joules. But an ordinary man cannot visualize what is gigajoule. So from gigajoule to liter diesel oil equivalent, you just divide it with 0.0384, then it is converted immediately to liter diesel oil equivalent. We know what is 1 liter of oil, diesel oil. So with that of the planting, the labor, in the paper I was mentioning about direct oil and indirect oil. Okay, labor is also given energy value. Okay, why? And it is classified as indirect oil. Why? Because when we work, we actually use energy. Where do we get that energy? From the food that we eat. So every day, each labor would consume roughly 0.4 liter diesel oil equivalent when we are working. So I was mentioning a while ago that direct and indirect energy used in sugarcane production. That direct energy use is about 366, and indirect use is about 605, or roughly 40-60. Why indirect energy is higher? It's because of the fertilizer. Okay, so fertilizer is lumped into indirect energy because you don't put, you don't directly consume. But you use a lot of energy in manufacturing nitrogen fertilizer. First place, as I said a while ago, it's 2.15 liter diesel oil equivalent once it reaches the farm. In the manufacture, it would range from 1.4 to 1.8 liter diesel oil equivalent. But it undergoes so much holding, storage, holding, so on and so forth. And we're far in the Philippines. Yes, holding. So you see the trap. And holding data. Oh. And holding is more than 200 liter diesel oil equivalent. That is harvesting. By the way, this study, I did not include processing. That's the subject matter of the paper of Dr. Rex Demakillis and the group, together with Dr. Opinion here, which was presented in the last Philosophic Convention. It was only last year. Yeah, let me summarize the long list of energy audit. Where should we start? Of course, I want to mention that we spend a lot of energy in planting compared with the raccoon cane. Why? Because we don't have already the crop establishment energy bill is about 240, which is the 20% energy bill in the plant cane. In the raccoon cane, since we don't have land preparation, what was included as crop establishment for the raccoon cane are only the stubble shaving and trash burning. The Mondays involved. Okay. So maliit lang po siya. We apply more fertilizer in the plant cane. Why? Because the planters expect higher yield in the plant cane, so they apply more fertilizer than in the raccoon cane. Okay. And finally, now why the embedded energy is also lower in the plant cane, in the raccoon cane than in the plant cane. The computations of embedded energy is translated into per ton cane. Okay? How much energy or how much time you use the machines or so forth translated on a per ton basis. And I'm using a coefficient of 0.0384 per ton cane in terms of embedded energy with the long computation. So obviously, what we want to say, raccooning is an energy saving practice because it's almost 40%. Okay? And later on you find out that lower energy is used in the modality. Is it also correct to say that we use lesser energy in the raccoon case? Later on, okay. Okay, this is a summary of the 5 major sources of energy bill in sugarcane production. Okay, crop establishment 127. That's the average of one planting and one raccoon. Farm inputs 484, which is 51%. Harvesting and hauling about 240 liters of oil. That's 25%. Okay, so when we average one plant and one raccoon, that's about 941. Okay? So when we express it on a per ton basis, of course, it will be the farm inputs, fertilizer, herbicides will be getting, spending a lot of energy. So the challenge, how do we reduce the energy bill of sugarcane production? So we have the 3 major sources: crop establishment, fertilizer, oiling, and harvesting. So this is the summary of the reduction in energy bill as we raccoon our canes from 2 to 6. So about 79% if we raccoon up to 6, 76 or 55 liter diesel oil equivalent per hectare if we raccoon 5 times. Savings in energy, I also computed the greenhouse gas emission reduction to the best value of saved energy. If planters, 50, 60, 70% of them will adopt the practice of extended raccooning, okay? Even if only 50% of them will be adopting, then we are already saving something like 0.79 million liters of oil. Okay? 136 million tons of greenhouse gas emission. Okay? Our base energy is our benchmark energy farm. Now, a while ago, I was mentioning, is it justified to ask our planters to extend their raccoons? In this analysis, you will find out that as they extend the raccoon to raccoon 6, if the yield will decrease to only 60 ton cane per hectare, the energy used per ton cane is already 14.50. So this is what I've, the reason why I told you last time. So, anong decision? You want to decrease our yield, then you go to more ratoons. But of course, later on, that's the challenge. How do we pursue ratooning without significant decline in yield? Because if we just simply do ratooning without anticipating, without finding out how do we maintain the yield in the ratoon, then we will be at a loss. So at 35,500 cost of plant cane establishment, I removed the fertilizer expense. This translates to about 12 tons per cane at the current price of sugar, including molasses. So that means if we decrease ratoon yield by 20, 25, 30 ton canes per hectare, means a foregone income of about 23, 37, 81,000 pesos per hectare respectively. It's unfair for the farmers. It's also unfair for the nation because we will be importing a lot of sugar. What about fertilizer? Okay. Fertilizer is more than 50% of the total energy. So, the energy used for fertilizer and the planting is 11.73.12 liter diesel oil equivalent per kilogram sugar. In the ratoon, it's much lower. Okay? If the yield, what's the yield that I use here? I think the yield that I use is still the benchmark yield of about 86 tons cane per hectare. By the way, I use a relatively high base yield. For plant cane, it's about 100, and for the ratoon, it's about 80. So the average would be something like 86 tons cane per hectare. Why? Why did I use a high benchmark yield? If you are to reduce, if I were to use the current national yield level, we have nothing to reduce anymore because the yield is low. The yield is 65 tons cane per hectare. Okay? Why the yield is low is because the fertilizer application rate is also low. Land preparation also is low. So we have nothing to reduce. So we'll be importing a lot of sugar, which is not good for the economy, which is not good for employment. Remember, the Philippine sugar industry is employing about 700,000 direct employment and additional 5 million indirect employment. So, industry figure claims that for every 5 tons sugar produced, you employ 1 person. So, kung nag-import tayo ng 100 tons, 100,000 tons, that means we are disengaging 2,000 people. Reduce energy bill and peso value of fertilizer. If we save 50% of our farms will be reducing their fertilizer by 30% reduction. These are the values. But if the 50% of farms will be using this in year 3, and year 4 they will be increasing. So that's it. Okay? The current energy value of fertilizer application is about 5 billion or close to 6 billion pesos at the current price of oil, which is 27 liter. So FAO claim 50 to 60% increase in yield is attributed to fertilizer. Okay. Meaning to say, if we reduce considerably our fertilizer application, then there will be reduced yield. Okay. We save a lot of pesos, but we don't have sugar. Very efficient in sugar. So, nauna yung sinabi ko. As a rule of thumb, for every ton of cane, it requires 1.5, or the decimal point, it should be 0.02 kilogram, 1.5 to 2 kilogram nitrogen, 0.75 to 1 kilogram of phosphorus, 1.5 to 2 kilogram of potash. Nitrogen is most critically needed in large amount, but it is also the nutrient element that chews the highest amount of energy and the highest carbon dioxide emission equivalent. So I've computed, it's about 12.91 kilogram CO2 equivalent per year. Fertilizer accounted for the high percentage of the energy bill. Why? Because 95% is nitrogen. And the heavier boss process of and manufacture consumes a lot of energy. It requires high pressure and high temperature. And nitrogen is applied the most, 62% by weight in northern Negros Occidental. And in the benchmark farm in the campus, it's 100%. There are farming techniques for reducing fertilizer already. They are being done already by our farmers. But of course, not many of them. Ano po ang practice nila is, what is it? It is not to burn the cane, to what we call practice of trash farming. They are pulling and flying mattress and villas in their farms. Of course, they adopt good agronomic practices, use of irrigation, adapted high yielding of sugarcane ripening, practice seed selection, timely cultivation, good drainage, proper application of the limited amount of fertilizer, high price fertilizer. So, ito po ang example, no? So, kilala po siguro ninyo. So, they're using trash shredder. One of the reasons why farmers burn the cane, pag hindi po kasi shred na ganito, hindi mag-germinate yung mga tillers. This is what we call ratubing. Okay. So, if after trash shredding, then they can immerse already. Of course, the other major reason is that with this unshredded trash, it's so easy to burn. Isang sigarilyo lang, tatapon yun, sumunod. So, masusunod din po yun. But with the shredded trash, then after a month or two, they can pass already into a cultivator, and the trash will be mixed in the soil. So they will start decomposing and burn. That's what I created. It's already focal nitrogen fixation. In Negros, what they're doing is to place the trash in the rows, every other. What about hoeing? So as I was mentioning, hoeing is one of the major contributory to energy consumption. It's about 240 liter diesel oil equivalent per hectare. These are the big and more efficient trucks being used. I think I took this picture in Central Carrera del Petro. As early as 1950s, cane hoeing was heavily recognized by industry leaders in their paper presented in the fields of technical. The transporting canes to the mill contributes as much as 25 to 35% of the total production. But right now, what is happening is that canes are being transported from up to 80 to 180 kilometers. So, from as far as Sagay or Cadiz, tatakbo dyan ang cane, or from as far as these places, transport sa Victorias. I interviewed both the planters and industry leaders that were claiming about 30% of canes are pulled in criss-cross or regular pattern. The canes in North Sagay are pulled to the south as much as 130 kilometers. Over about the distance from the farm to the transloading station where canes from smaller trucks are loaded or unloaded again. So, in addition to the 1.15 liter per ton during hauling to the transloading station, an additional of 3.135 liter per ton is used for transporting canes. are the options in reducing pollen? One is the use of bigger and more fuel-efficient trucks. Pero, comment po kagad nila we need well-paved roads. Okay? To use those big trucks, long trucks, kung bako-bako yun. So yun po sabi, adjustment, adaptation to bad roads are the smaller trucks. Tama ba yan, Luis? How can you use the big truck? And then, what happened to the industry? In the 60s, there is what we call mill district or zoning. That you cannot build the canes beyond 15 kilometers away. So that is the area. But in the 60s, it was declared free for all. There is no more zoning. That's why nagkaroon ng transloading scheme because of that. But when I asked some industry leader about transloading, sabi nila, imposibleng ipatigil mo ang transloading. So it's now impossible to stop down yung transloading. Okay? Why are they getting gains from faraway places? One, their sugar mills are big. There are 4 sugar mills in Mendoza, which are super big. So they really need to score canes outside. There's one big mill in Negros, of course I should not mention the name, where 60% of their canes are obtained as far as Pasig, Iloilo. Sinasakay sa barko, sa bars. Well, in the paper I was explaining why they are doing that. Will they still earn money if they will be transporting their cane? And by the way, in the sugar industry, they have what we call trucking allowance or subsidy. They are paying as much as 500 pesos per ton already, just to get the canes. I try to pencil push that. Will they still be earning? One of the major requirements of this big mill is bagasse. To fuel their raw sugar factory, their distillery, and their, of course, their refinery, and this time their cogen, because there is electric power cogeneration. So I think they're still earning money, because if they will not be earning money, then they will stop. Nobody will give them subsidy anyway. So with that 4 factories, they can distribute the cost then. Because if they will not have any bagasse, they have nothing to burn. It's so expensive to buy, to burn bunker oil. Also. Yeah. Because there's already a competition. Now, the cheapest will be through railways. Because the energy bill is only 0.25 liter diesel oil per ton cane. 90% of canes in Australia are hauled to the mill through the railways. Before, in Asia New Zealand, there are still railways. And I was told, even in Negros, there are existing railways. Bakit po nawala? Oh, so many stories to tell. And then there is also this phenomenon now. Because of this 4 factory setup of bigger mills, they extend their operation only allowing 1 month staff for maintenance and repair. But we claim in agronomy, it is not agronomically optimal. In the other paper I wrote, this is agronomically heretic, something like that. Because July, August, or early September are still rainy days in a non-El Nino year. Okay? This is the period of time when there is a rapid growth. Okay? When growth accumulation would be as high as 30 to 40 tons of cane per month. Okay? So, if they will be harvesting July, then they will be missing that. So they will only be reducing the farmers to a very low yield of 40 or 50 tons cane per hectare. Okay. Considering 50% of orchids are produced in Negros, there must be a way to offset the yield depressing effect of harvesting earlier than normal, which is about 20 to 24% of 330 milling days, or about 39 to 40% of the 180 days normal or regular milling days. By the way, in Australia, they build their canes 150 to 160 days only. I computed more or less a 5 tons cane per hectare from an average of 65 tons cane per hectare of yield. This translates to about 1.125 million tons cane. So what we are saying now, with this practice, there will be more yield decline. You have mentioned that there is a time to sleep, there is a time to work, time to rest. Same is true with sugarcane. Okay? Mamaya po, tayo lalabas, magmimerienda, uwi tayo, so on and so forth, then we sleep. And the following morning, rise up again and work. Same is true with the crop. Okay? Nighttime is for sleeping. Daytime is for working. So something like that. Okay? That's the genetic. So what I'm saying, there must be on the other end, this is a challenge. Can we really do research work, adjust the varietal trait, and do accompanying agronomic practices to offset the yield depressing effects of early harvest? Okay. Or the other option, we should be able to increase further the yield of canes harvested during the regular optimal crop establishment months of December, January, February, through irrigation, optimum fertilizer application, and good agronomic practices. Of course, we have this so-called Project 200, we want to increase the yield of cane to 200. Okay? We have not crossed the yield barrier, but we are obtaining 151 beans and 151 boards and double years. 191? Before, another farmer in Florida Blanca had obtained about 187 tons cane per hectare in his 2.5-hectare farm. Take note, the national average yield is only 65 tons cane per hectare, meaning 3 times higher than the national average. So it's possible to increase yield. Summing up the options to reduce the energy bill, okay, if we combine all the good practices, what will happen? If 70% will be pursuing 5 platoons, what will be the overall yield energy reduction will be something like 41% relative to the benchmark, which is 10.97. Now our energy bill per ton is only 6.48. Benchmark is 10.97. The ideal or the best option is when we use the 70% reduction of fertilizer and we roll our cane by rail, which use only what, 0.25 LDOE per ton cane. So why are you using yun? Paano lalabas yun? Anyway, if we add 149, 1.29, it will be less than 6.48. I think it's only about 5 liter diesel equivalent per ton cane. Carbon footprint. So when we say carbon footprint, it does not refer really to our footprint, but it refers to the total amount of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emitted. This will include methane, carbon monoxide, and diffuse oxide. So I use the same illustration of my own. This time the value. Crop establishment 505 emission, area management 315, cane burning, 13 tons CO2 equivalent. There is verified waste loss. Okay, the benchmark data for carbon footprint of sugar production. On a per hectare, it's about 7.5 tons. On a per ton basis, 85 kilograms CO2 equivalent. Per kilogram raw sugar, 0.86 kilogram carbon dioxide equivalent. What's our per capita consumption? It's about 21 kilograms. So 20 kilograms times 0.8, that's about 16 kilograms CO2 equivalent. Kaya po, pag kayo'y nagkakape sa umaga or any time of the day, you just imagine, parang bumubugha rin ng carbon dioxide. You are also emitting carbon dioxide in that coffee that you're drinking. The major sources, just the same, the crop establishment, 7.2%, care management. But you see, the farm inputs, 27.35%. I separate the nitrous oxide carbon dioxide equivalent of nitrogen. It's because I cannot lump it to the farm inputs because it's different when we compute the nitrous oxide emission. If we add that, then the farm inputs is about 41%. Harvesting and holding about 13.5%. So, how do we reduce? If we reduce the energy bill, we will also reduce more or less carbon emission. Okay. Let's see. Our goal is to reduce our emission by 70%. That is the commitment of our president. And as I mentioned a while ago, no president of this country, including Duterte now, although he said change is coming, he will not change that figure. Tama ba yan? Will President Duterte include changing that commitment that Pinoy made in the COP21? Perhaps you will give me your answer about this. So, if our farmers will adopt 5 platoons and use zero nitrogen fertilizer, haul their canes by rail, then we can reduce our emission by 78%. Okay? But as I have said, sino naman magsasakang magtatanim na ito? Oh, will be the sugarcane planter will not be applying nitrogen fertilizer anyway. That's impossible. That is impossible. We'll not be able to convince them. Perhaps, ultimately, we can convince them, okay, if they have already rebuilt their soil, up to 90 kilograms fertilizer. But take note, it's only 61.58. But take note also, holding of canes is through the use of rail. Okay? So, if we are using just the usual, those big trucks, then the emission reduction could range from 21, 34, at best, will be 46% reduction. That is, they are only applying 90 kilograms of fertilizer. Okay. So, sasabihin nyo, imposible. Siyempre, hindi ko naman sasabihin pa yun. Reducing the carbon footprint of sugarcane production based from the benchmark footprint of 52.7 kilograms per ton case. So, what's our option? Increasing the ratun cycle from 3 to 5 ratons. But how can we do that? We don't have the ratooning variety. Those longer ratooning varieties. Okay. We decrease the fertilizer 30, 50 to 70%. That's only 90 kilograms per hectare. That will lead to 41, 34, 70% kilograms CO2 per ton cage, equivalent to this reduction. The ideal or the best option is 5 ratun cycles, minimal fertilizer, and hauling by rain as follows. By rain, 95 kilograms and 20 kilogram carbon dioxide equivalent, or 61.58% reduction. 50 kilogram nitrogen only, 16 kilograms CO2 equivalent per ton, 69%. Kulang pa tayo ng 0.9%. But through organic farming, those no nitrogen, then 11.25 kilograms CO2 equivalent per ton, 17 or 79%, almost 79% reduction. 2 main emitters, fertilizer and pollen canes to the main pollen canes by rain remains to be the most promising option for the future, as it costs the least 10% of 2.59 meter per ton. Trash farming or no burning canes is the main agricultural practice that will significantly cut down the energy bill with the total carbon dioxide emission equivalent of sugarcane production. How to explain that? So ito po, with trash farming, we don't have any direct or indirect emission of these greenhouse gases. Okay? We conserve the nutrients, we improve the soil quality, so increase the soil organic matter. So we lessen the need for deep tillage to establish the floodplain. So we minimize raconial decline. So in other words, we can increase the raccoon cycles. So we control the weeds, so on and so forth. One thing that is not being appreciated from the Philippines, nobody, or I've yet to hear someone who has studied the effects of burning on human health. But ano po ang hazardous? Ano yung impact? This is what they call polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon. So sa tingin pa lang medyo ganatang twisting. So siguro masama sa katawan nito. And many dirts or dust. Hindi dirt or dust. So it's hard to put costs on the health habits. So the nexus of energy, environment, and economics of production will be to what? Not to apply, or just minimal application of fertilizer, decreasing the energy bill, decreasing the carbon dioxide emission or the environment. There will be good, better environment, especially in sugarcane producing areas, decreasing the cash cost of production, meaning to say improve profitability. The carbon footprint per ton cane, as you can see, what are these ABC? These are the scenarios. What is A scenario? The common practice, so on and so forth. What's the impact? 60 or 61% reduction and up to 70% reduction in carbon emission. But what? Without burning, so ano po ang nangyayari? When we burn, yes, the carbon emission will only be carbon, or this will be carbon monoxide, wala dapat carbon dioxide. Or there's carbon dioxide, it's correct. But this is used again in crop photosynthesis. So pupunta siya sa crop biomass, then balik sa sugarcane. Okay? But without burning, there is net CO2 fixation. O saan ba siya kukuha ng carbon dioxide? Okay? So that will be in the biomass, that's about 11.13 tons per hectare in the trash. So that is in the organic matter, it will also decompose. Yes, if it is decomposed, then it can emit it back. But 15% of the organic matter will become humus carbon. So it becomes unstable carbon, which is already dissolved organic matter. So that's 1.62 tons carbon per hectare translated into carbon dioxide equivalent. By the way, from carbon to carbon dioxide, we just multiply by 3.7. Okay? 3.7 times 1.62, that's about 6 tons carbon dioxide equivalent per hectare. So what we're claiming is that we can have unavoided carbon dioxide emission of something like 12 tons carbon per hectare without burning. So, to summarize, without burning, we can reduce the energy bill by 312 liter diesel oil equivalent per hectare, avoided emission of about 12 carbon, 12 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Okay? Hey, by the way, we have the carbon sequestered in the bar thrust roof stumps, which is about 2 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So if we add that to the 1195, that's 13 tons carbon dioxide equivalent. And if we convert that to the social costs of carbon, of otherwise saved nutrients and emitted carbon dioxide equivalent, it has a value of 19 or almost 30,000 pesos. Take note the social cost of carbon that I use, because this is the one that is being used by the technical working group of the United States. It is $21 per ton. It was reassessed. They are claiming now that the social cost of carbon is about $950 per ton, and it will increase to $1,500 per ton by 2050. So, while I was mentioning about this 13 tons, so that no burning, trash farming leads to 13 tons carbon dioxide emission equivalent of avoided emission. And so I was mentioning a while ago that the social cost of carbon will be something like we multiply a while ago I was mentioning $21 per ton, but someone is saying, hey, that is low. It should be what? It should be now about what? $40 per ton carbon. So the social cost of carbon is about 36 pesos and 25 centavos per kilogram. We cannot avoid emitting carbon dioxide. So what is the carbon balance? The humus sequestered is about 6, avoided emission 1.9, the total of what? 11.96. Okay? On a per ton basis, that is 130. But first, if you are applying 90 kilogram fertilizer, that is 14 kilogram per ton cane. So there is a net CO2 emission, avoidance emission of 124. Well, we have a benchmark of CO2, which is 85. So we have a carbon balance of 52 kilogram per ton cane. On a per hectare basis, that translates to 4.5 or 4,556 kilogram CO2 equivalent. So what does this mean? It means that the sugarcane can be a net carbon sequestrating rather than carbon emitting if we stop burning our canes. If we stop burning canes 10 years from now, then we'll just be applying 90 kilograms or 100 kilograms or even 50 kilograms per ton. Others say, hey, we'll just apply mud press mill so we can return back the organic matter, the nutrients, and so forth. Yes, that's okay. That's a good initiative also. But remember, mill ash and mud press is only about 4 to 5% of tonnage. Okay? So, if you balance the materials, it's still very small. What about the truss? The truss is 12 to 15% of tonnage. So still, even if you will be getting all the mud press and mill ash, there'll still be a difference of what? 12 minus 4, that's about 8. So we're still deficit of 8%. That's why over the years, for the last 50 to 100 years that we are burning our sugarcane trash, that's why the soil organic matter had dwindled. Anong sagot ng isang magsasaka sa Batangas? Pagas na daw ang lupa. Okay? Pagas, so pagod na yung lupa na. What's the consequence? They have to apply large amount of fertilizer, large amount of nitrogen fertilizer. I cannot blame my comparator. The benchmark is 300. So that's the explanation. Now, the only way to increase yield is to increase fertilizer application. Of course, with the other adoption of good agronomic practices, using the best variety, using good cultivation, time planting, so on and so forth. Okay? Will this not offset the carbon sequestering effects of no burning or grass farming? Would there not be an incremental emission because of the added nitrogen? But the thing is, if we increase the yield, then there will be an increase of trash, okay, from 11 to 20 tons per hectare, or a difference of 9 tons per hectare. So, we have a carbon dioxide balance of 3.7 tons per hectare. The benchmark is 4.5 tons carbon per hectare. So, okay lang. For as long as you do not burn the trash, then we have a positive carbon balance. I do not claim precision of my estimate because calculations in this kind of activity, your accuracy depends on the technical coefficients that you are using. Okay? Of course, I'm using the best available technical coefficient, the standard ones. Used by IPCC, International Panel on Climate Change. So, if they will question the validity of my estimate, then they will question IPCC. So, what is now the policy imperative? We should have an agro-environment protocol for the Philippine sugar industry. That from here on, we have to campaign for no burning. So that ultimately we can increase the return cycle without significantly decline, increases trash farming, no burning trash farming, transform the energy intensive carbon emitting nitrogen fertilizer, starch sugarcane, and into carbon sequestering avoiding system. But how do we stop, or how do we convince planters to stop burning their cane after harvest? Okay, the mill is very good in convincing the planters not to burn their canes before harvesting. Why? They impose a trash loss factor, okay, of pre-harvest burn. So, I took this picture. If there's no negligible trash or what, good quality things, of course there will be no that. But if they will burn, and it will be a little dry, then 10%. Burn, dry, deteriorate, 30%. Wala na. Parang no sugar. So, that's why not too many planters now burn their canes, facilitate harvesting because of this. Of course, there are still burnt canes for other reasons, like accidental fire. But post-harvest burning is still the dominant practice. Our minimum estimate, 65% of all farms in the Philippines are burned to facilitate the next operation. The Agriculture Secretary of Sao Paulo, Brazil State had announced a new model successful partnership arrangement between the private sector and British Unica in the government. About 85% of sugarcane produced in Sao Paulo had committed to meet the agro-environmental goals of Green Protocol. What's their commitment? Phase out sugarcane harvest field burning 2014. For mechanized areas, 2017 or next year for non-mechanized areas. For this effort, they will be getting 8.5 tons of CO2 emission reduction for the next 10-year period. The Green Protocol included electricity cogeneration. We have about 3 sugar mills already wired to this. They're also into ethanol plants, and they're trying to recover their riparian forests. The sum effects of this initiative is about 62.5 tons carbon dioxide reduction in the state of Sao Paulo by 2017. Sao Paulo is like Negros of the Philippines on a bigger scale. The canes planted to Sao Paulo is, I think, 9 million hectares. So, ganito po kadami yung trash na sinusunog. Visit ako sa first farmers. So, bakit nila susunugin yan? Kasi nga, paano i-cultivate pag hindi masusunugin? Yeah. In Brazil, practically, 100% of their gains are mechanically harvested, combined harvested. Okay? And that's why, for more than 10 years, they're not burning their trash anymore. As I mentioned a while ago, if the trash are shredded, there will be no more difficulty for the stubbles germinate for the sugar. So there's ratuning. As compared to this one, no? Paano nga naman sisibol dyan? But of course, as in the case of the initiatives of our planters in Negros, okay, they're using trash shredder. Okay, ano naman ang issue ng trash shredder? Or later on, you may comment on this. It's a new investment on their part, okay? And the knives of the trash shredder easily get dulled. So we need to have very sharp knives, okay? So we have to improve our metallurgy. Of course, we don't have a good metallurgy, so we're importing the trash shredders. Okay? Kasimpleng makina, hindi natin kayang gawin. So, that's the effect. So what we need in the industry is an agro-environment protocol, a partnership agreement between the government, I have friends here from the SRA, and the Sugarcane Planters Association. As usual, the Philippines, dito tayo mahirap. There are so many planters association. In Brazil, they have only Unica, which is about 90% of all the planters. So, if the Unica leadership make the decision, then that's it. And the Philippines, marami siyang bida. So, the agro-environment protocols spell out no cane burning, soil conservation, soil erosion control on the sides of rivers by planting fruit trees, wood trees, bamboos, tall grasses, adoption of reduced tillage and control planting of sugarcane sloping areas, implement simultaneous protection preservation of the treaties of agro-ecosystem by planting trees for every 100 rows or lesser around perimeter line property boundaries where there are many stones and suitable areas for cane growing. The trees will serve as wind and fire break and to have the unique functions of trees in the hydrologic cycle. The agro-environment protocol must complement the adoption of good agronomic practices. adequate water, and so on and so forth. What's the impact? The impact would be avoided emission of 0.92 to 1.92 million tons carbon dioxide to social cost 90.33 to 36.2 million US dollar. So even if we only use half of this money, the social cost value will be spent on R&D, its impact on the future of the Philippine sugar industry will be used. Conclusions. The R&D funds to be invested in breeding cane cultivars exhibiting longer attuning and promoting through extension services of no barring canes as farming is more than justified if the aggregate benefits on the reduced fertilizer application, hence energy bill and carbon dioxide emission through the many routes of avoided emission. The high energy bill of falling canes is increasing due to the practice of buying canes by big sugar mills from as far as 120 kilometers, where about 30% of canes in Negros. This practice translates to about 60% or more of the canes for the entire sugar industry. This whole practice consumes more energy, more than 4 tons LDO per ton cane, as compared to 2.59 LDO per ton cane. In turn, increases also the carbon footprint of food. The high energy bill and carbon footprint of fertilizer, particularly nitrogen, can be offset through grass farming. All the emissions of carbon dioxide are compensated by transforming sugarcane production to carbon sequestering through the use in the soil organic matter, plus the avoided emissions of fertilizer, saved but not burned and decoupled nitrogen fixation when sugarcane crush is decomposed. In the past millennium, the discovery of oil is the game changer. It is oil also that should propel changes, as using it all will liberate 40 times more carbon dioxide when the estimated maximum allowable emission is only 1 teramegaton. So the 2 degrees limit in global warming will not be exceeded. Promoting the adoption of green agroecological protocol, a partnership agreement between the sugarcane planters and the government, is a policy imperative to reduce the energy bill and make sugarcane production carbon negative rather than carbon positive. The commitment of the Philippine President during the COP21 UN Climate Change Conference held in Paris in December 2015 of 70% reduction in CO2 emission to be more than achieved. The adoption of agroecological protocol for sugarcane production is not still a farewell to fossil fuel oil, but it would make sugarcane production climate change compliant. As more than 3 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare, or about 1 million tons CO2 is calculated emission, if 80% of the planters adopt or implement the protocol. So, ladies and gentlemen, tapos na po. Salamat po.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful lecture. The open forum and the discussion are now open with reactors from the Academic Concerned Agency, Dr. Jolita L. Movillon from the Department of Chemical Engineering of the College of Engineering and Agro-Industrial Technology. We also call Mr. Vincent Acuna of Arsenio Acuna Agricultural Corporation and Mr. Pablo S. Sandoval of Sugar Regulatory Administration.
Inumawa na rin. Nakasinya siya na.
Hello. These are the realities on the ground. Thailand, 1.2 million hectares, 70% one. If you look from airplane window in South Africa, as if the whole of South Africa is burning. With the first enactment of Clean Air Act, we were told by the NR not to run. And I replied them that we will all end up in jail. I told them that sugarcane grows 364 days a year and it will take us only 1 day to burn it. So, yeah, it will only take a muscle stick to clean and cut off. Ang sakada namin, cut and load 2 tons per day they burn. If they cut green, 1 ton lang. So kung 250 yung 1 ton, magiging 500 yung kanila daily weight. Ito yung mga realities. At the peak ng El Nino ng March and April, ang sabi ng planter, better burn and mill than left in the field. Nang abutin ka ng ulan at magsaray yung sugar mill. So, kung I'm aiming for 150 tons per hectare yield at 2 kilograms nitrogen, I'm always using 300 kilograms nitrogen per hectare. So, kung hindi mo ako pagamitin ng nitrogen, I better think of other business. I better shift to other policies. So, ito yung mga realities. Pag successful yung big cane, for this year, nung mag-improve ang economy, naubos yung farm worker. Lumipat sa construction, lumipat sa livestock, as in the whole country experience labor shortage. So, napakamura ng isang palito ng posporo na clear mo lahat ng buo. It will cost you 1 million to acquire a shredder for that implement alone. Ilan lang siguro yung pwede mo sila. Sa 50,000 sugarcane farmers ng Pilipinas, siguro mga 100 lang yung capable bumili.
Siya lang.
Kasi sarili.
At para ma-establish mo yung mababang LDO, kailangan mataas ang yield mo. Wala kaming variety na nakakatatlong raton. Maximum ng 2 raton. Para ma-attain mo ang average na 100 TC per hectare, 1 plant crop at 1 raton. Malaki ang energy consumption sa plant crop. Kung ang yield mo ay 60 tons, hindi tatapasin ang tapasero mo yan ng big. Sisindihan lang yan. Accidental burning, pero sila yung nagsindi nun. Sasabihin nila, aksidente na sunog. Pero may pumunta doon ng alas 12 ng gabi na siya nagsindi. Ito na yan. So, gusto natin, how I wish. Nag-shredder ako, 3 consecutive years. Yung residual organic matter na 1%, naging 3.5% organic matter. Pero, ako lang may shredder sa buong bayan namin. Baka sa buong Batangas, 3 lang kami na dalawa, sa 30,000 hectares. So, how I wish na lahat sila meron. Hindi pwede ka mag-shredder na wala kang traktora. Mataas na horsepower ng traktora ang magpo-propel ng shredder. So, the ideal situation is very far from the realities of the ground. So, kung paano is-implement yung law, nandoon, pagdating sa ground, hard selling tayo sa implementation ng law. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Bill Sapunga. I was a professor. I was a student of CERT 3 years ago. I took a degree program here in Los Baños because I had the intention of working in the family business na sugarcane farm. At that time, I didn't know much about sugarcane or agriculture. Pero Baños for a year, I became very interested in what a lot of my family have been saying na I found my calling because among all the apos, I'm the only one who became interested in helping out the family business. So I want to start by saying when I joined in the business, we had a lot of old practices that people have been doing since they started farming. We had our farms, I think, since 1980s. And then one of the most common practice was really to burn the field for land preparation. And when I was in the class of Sir Ted, he really emphasized the negative effects of burning and the benefits of trash farming. So it was really one of the things that I tried to change slowly. In the first year, we did. I was supposed to look out for 5 farms, and then what we did was for that first year we did 2 fields per farm, 1 ratoon, 1 new plant that we practiced trash farming. Trash farming where we did was the trashing, the removal of leaf sheets at 6 to 7 months, and then no burning of canes for land preparation. In the beginning it was hard because the farmers were not used to it. A lot of them would object, even my parents. They would say that it would take time, something like that. Pero the effects of the trashing, removal of leaf sheets, proved to be very effective and beneficial. In what Sir presented in his PowerPoint, it does fix the soil. We had one field that had very poor soil. We would always reach maybe an average of 50 tons. And then we tried fixing it by putting mud press and mill ash. But then we would still get low yield. So what we did was we did trash farming and the trashing. We left the trash in the field from the trashing, and then for land preparation, instead of burning, we let the leaves dry out, and then we put in our tractor with the disc harrow, and then we just apply several passes. In a couple of days, it would be shredded, and then we do land preparation where it is turned around to the soil, and then it became ready for planting. After 2 crops, the soil that was 0 organic matter and then had orange and gray color started becoming brown and turning to a darker shade. It also gave us better yield in new plant, and even with ratoon, if we did not burn, even farmers passing by our farms, they would even comment that our ratoon fields look like new plant crops. And this, I believe, is because there's no more delay. After you burn the field, normally when you harvest and then you burn the field, there are some stubbles that already show growth. And if you burn it, you lose the first growth of those canes. And it would take 1 to 2 weeks for them to begin sprouting again. So, for me, that 2-week delay is very important. And it also, and for us, if for example it grows out and then you burn it and you have to cut again, instead of looking at that as a first ratoon, you consider it already as a second ratoon because you had to, the cane had to grow again. Another beneficial effect from the trashing and the removal of leaf sheets is its beneficial effect for the harvesting period. A lot of our tapuceros and our contractors who bring in people to harvest, they all commented that the canes are easier to harvest because there's no more, there's less trash in the fields, and then it's easier for them to cut close to the ground. So if it's if you will ratoon the field, you will also you don't have to go for stubble shaving anymore. There's also less lodging if there are strong winds because there are less leaves on the canes. They also say, and we see that there's better cane quality. We see that the stalks look better and they feel harder. There's also better water retention because the trash covers the field. So throughout the growing period, if you do trash at 6 months and then you put it on the floor, if it rains, the moisture is kept even if there's no rain for a few weeks. Since the leaves are covering the soil, there's also less weeds, especially if you do it for ratoon. And then, well, if we're a new plant and then we ratoon the field, for us to do the trash farming protocol, what we do is we trash pile the leaves after harvest instead of burning. We do it on alternate rows. And then after 3 months, by the time the canes have canopy, the trash is almost fully decomposed. So we do the trash and then a row that has no trash and then trash. And then the row with no trash, that's where we can cultivate and that's where we apply fertilizer. And then for the ratoon, by the time it's 6 months, when we eat the trash again, we put the trash on the part that on the row that we did not put the trash. So at 6 months, the whole field is fully covered with trash. Also, the effect of the trashing the canes. By the time you land prep, when you have to chop the trash in the field, there will be less leaves to trash because you already removed some of it when it was around 6 to 7 months old. It would be even better if we can do trash 2 times, but then sometimes it's hard because of labor. There's a lot of stuff to be done already. Normally for ratoon, we would apply more urea because we anticipate the decline in yield. But after the trashing and trash farming, we don't have to apply so much. We apply less. For me, a lot of people believe that burning for land prep is really, a must. Well, sometimes we really have to burn. Up to now, we still burn, but then as much as possible, I tell our people, try not to burn because of its effects in the field. And they've seen that also. After the 3 to 4 years that I've been working in the farm. At first, it was just one of our farms that started the trashing. In the second year, two. Now, all of them are practicing, and they're all trying to do the trashing. And what's nice is to see our neighboring farms, they're also trying to follow. Especially with the trashing, because they see our canes on the road. They see that we removed the leaves. So at first they were wondering why we did that. They were all, it was very new to a lot of farmers. Then we began to see that in our neighboring farms, they were also practicing the trashing. So we would like to believe that that came from our practice, that they would see it. And as Sir said, mastering the ratoon cycle is a key point in sugarcane farming because that is very important. That's where we save in land preparation, we save in time. If we have a good ratoon, that's where a lot of farmers make money, especially the small planters. I believe that the trash farming is very important in keeping a good ratoon. So hopefully we can get the word out, and then it will be a matter of time that people will be practicing it more. Thank you.
We appreciate Dr. Mendoza's advocacy on no burning policy and the trash farming. Since the 70s, there are several researches were done on the advantages of processing clean canes. So whenever we discuss this in class, we always emphasize with our students to process fresh, that is unburned, mature, and clean canes. And then several authors of textbooks already have done some calculations that for every 1 unit of non-sugar, which some will come from the trash in the juice, for every 1 unit of non-sugar, about 0.4 unit of the sugar of the juice will be unrecoverable. So that will be a good incentive for the planters to really give the factories clean canes. And of course, yung maturity ng canes have been emphasized already by our speaker. Now, with respect to the nitrogen fertilizer, I know that there are several kinds of greenhouse gases. Among these greenhouse gases is nitrous oxide. So, literatures will tell us that nitrous oxide will have both natural and human-related sources. Unfortunately, the natural sources would be about 68%. The human-related sources would only be about 32%. And when we talk about human-related activities, that would include agriculture, burning of fossil fuels, and then the industries. And as far as agriculture is concerned, agriculture contributes about 67% of the nitrous oxide emissions. So if we have a commitment to COP 21 to reduce our emissions by 70%, so maybe that emissions would not be coming from the nitrous oxide, but maybe it may come from other greenhouse gases, reduction of other greenhouse gases. Because when we talk about agriculture, we're referring to production of crops as well as livestock. And livestock would be a great contributor to greenhouse gases, especially methane production. Now, when we apply synthetic fertilizer, of course, we have some calculations that will contribute to greenhouse gas. But if we extend our calculation to nitrous oxide emission coming from organic farming, still we may have some emissions. So we cannot really zero out yung nitrous oxide emissions. And in agronomy, we know that nitrogen is an essential element for crop production. So for us in the academe, this will be a good start. Sabi nga, it's good to do something than do nothing at all. So we may not achieve from the agriculture side, yung 70% emission as promised. But we hope that in some other human-related activities, there may be some reduction. So that more or less we can achieve yung promise na 70% reduction in greenhouse gas emission.